Hey Oz,
Hey Curtis.
what movie we watching this week?
We've got a blend of Christopher Guest's Best in Show and the Chicago's Midwest Fur Fest, which is a real furry convention held every
sure
year.
it is. I'm sure you researched that.
Yeah, I didn't have to look too deep. But we are talking about Christopher Guest's Netflix-funded Mascots. Yeah. I just Googled furry conventions, and Chicago's Midwest Fur Fest showed up. So,
And you're now on several lists.
yeah, I made sure I shouted out to my wife, honey, I'm Googling furry conventions for the podcast.
I swear. It's for the
Podcast
podcast.
But the images on the website, because I went to it to make sure it wasn't literally like a dog show.
Yeah.
Because it was one or the other. It's like, is this, because it's held at like, it was either held at like Stevenson or, it was like a big convention center. It was,
Okay.
it is a big deal.
I'm sure it is.
But when I clicked on the images, I'm like, oh yeah, those are mascots. Those are people in furry costumes. Okay.
Okay. That's as
I didn't want
opposed
to,
to.
as opposed to another
Yes.
dog show, or this is where I bring my cat, or but no, it's a real thing. So yeah, Best in Show and Chicago's Midwest Fur Fest, which is a Chicago convention we have not checked off our list. We
have not.
We've hit Wizard World Comic Con. We've hit Flashback Weekend or Horror Finder, whichever one's in Chicago. I can't remember, but yeah, we haven't hit Fur Fest.
We have not. We'll have to show up there wearing polos.
Why don't we go ahead and make a plan, and I'll meet you there. How about
Yeah.
Welcome back to another week of Let's Talk About Flicks, the weekly podcast where, of course, we take a monthly theme and we go back and forth with the theme. I am one of your hosts, Oz.
And I am Curtis.
And before we get too long, we do want to give a Patreon shout out to our subscribers, Don S. and Melissa L. Thank you again for your patronage. It is greatly appreciated. If you would love to donate to the show, it would really help us out. You could it's not really helping us out. It's not like
We're desperate, folks. Please.
you can either hit the Patreon link down below, or you could find me at the corner of Womack and Third.
I'm down 3
rush
pints
hour.
of plasma.
I just panhandle. It's a lot easier. I go down to the subway and I play my fiddle, and people pay me to stop, so it works out well.
They won't take any more of my fluids.
They won't. You say that like they come for
won't.
you. They come at night. They
do.
take my fluids.
They take my fluids.
And it's not just blood and plasma, it's any fluid. Like they drain you of your urine,
Yeah.
your tears, your mucus, any fluid.
Yep. Every fluid, and they replace it with Country Time lemonade.
We just say they.
Whoever they is.
Everybody out there knows who they is.
Yep, I just wake up parched.
And my fluids are gone. I feel real prudy.
Moving on. Kind of painted ourselves into a corner there.
It's all right. It reminds me of the scene in Usual Suspects where, like, Kaiser Soze is so dehydrated his pee is chunky.
Ooh, that's right.
It is. If you watch it, they put like a little bit of gelatin in like the fake urine. So there's a scene where he's like on the boat where he's like, you get him from like a waist up shot, but kind of like 3/4 behind him to where you could see his leg and you could see the urine stream. And it's not as fluid as it should be. It's a little thicker, which is just gross to think about.
Too many plops.
Right. It
Ploppy
wasn't quite ploppish, but it didn't have the weight to go to give you that half rainbow. It just kind of died out.
The half rainbow. There was no prism effect.
No. There wasn't at all. spoiler alert, we're not going to talk much about this movie because there's not a whole lot about this movie to talk about.
It, yeah.
But we are wrapping up Sports Comedies Month with this one. The first movie of the first movie of the month that just didn't really, it had sports connotations, but it wasn't based on a sport. It's based on the mascots of the sports. And so who do we have as our cast of characters?
Oh my goodness! I took them all down, but I've got like 20 bullet points full of characters here.
We got time.
I'm just gonna zip through some of these.
That's fine. The more time you spend on this, the less time I have to talk about the plot.
So. We have Mike and Mindy Murray, a married couple from Kansas. They're
a lot of M's.
Ollie,
Mike and Mindy Murray.
I don't even remember, what kind of animal was Ollie? I don't even remember. There was Tammy Turtle, and it was Ollie something or other.
I'll look it up. I'm not. I don't remember.
Mascots for the South Fork Herons, and married mascots, so married outside of their profession.
Yes.
And we'll come back to that. We have Owen Jolly Jr., who's a mascot and butcher. He's Sid the Hedgehog for the Willingham Rovers across the pond. And then we have his wife Sarah and his father Owen Jolly.
It's not Golly.
Yeah, from a long. It's a third generation Sid the Hedgehog. We have Cindy and Lacey Babineau, who together play Alvin the Armadillo.
Yeah.
We have Tommy. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just like the futuristic robotic armadillo.
Yes. Which is have you seen the Rick and Morty episode where he goes down and he turns himself into a pickle and quite literally, and he builds this like exosuit for himself, and he's fighting rats in this exosuit as a pickle. And it kind of, if you combine his exosuit with the rats, then that would be Alvin the Armadillo. Yes,
you've got it. Yeah.
We have Tommy Zuccarello, whatever. He's the Fist is his mascot for some local Blue Lake Mallards in Manitoba, Canada.
Yeah. Hockey team.
Hockey, whatever. We've got some judges. We've got people who run the thing. Fred Willard's there.
He's just for no reason.
Yeah, that's
just because he's Fred Willard.
Yeah, that's good. Let's leave it there for characters.
Yeah,
let's dive into the plot for this movie, guys.
All right, I'll give you. Go ahead.
No.
I'll give you the long plot for this. Sports mascots reveal the peculiarities of the ultra-competitive world as they pursue the highest honor in their field, the gold fluffy. Moving on to Outside Insight. No, I really didn't dive too deep on the plot. Like I've mentioned before, a lot of times I'll have some general things I want to comment, and I just kind of back and forth with Wikipedia or whoever has a decent plot. I couldn't find a decent plot.
No, I couldn't either.
There's just isn't one. But long story short, it follows the it follows your very, very typical Christopher Guest format of two people in front of the camera improving together.
Yeah.
Cut to a scene that ties them to the next couple on a couch, et cetera, et cetera. And then now that we've met all of our characters and what they do, and just enough backstory to give them just some human feeling to it.
Yes.
Then we put them on the stage that they're to be on, whether it be the community theater stage, whether it be the dog show stage, whether it be the stage of a musical performance.
Yep.
Whatever. And they have their competition, and someone is awarded or remembered or crowned or whatever, and then we cut to more of the improv scenes as we unwind our story. It feels like, and I love it. We don't have to say on the show, we absolutely love Christopher Guest and everything he does. But it feels like a really good Tootsie Roll. Like all of his movies feel that way. You got a nice twist at the beginning and a nice twist at the end, and the bulk of it is really the reason we're here. And then you finish the Tootsie Roll and you move on to the next one. And so this one was like the Tootsie Roll that they throw at the parade that they get stepped on by a horse.
Like the vanilla Tootsie Rolls.
Oh, I like those. I prefer the fruit. I prefer the vanilla or the fruity Tootsie Rolls over the chocolate Tootsie Rolls. But this one just feels like that Tootsie Roll that you picked up the day after the parade.
Sure, like you found it kind of alongside the curb.
Right, yeah. And it it's a Christopher Guest movie because it has all of the tropes of a Christopher Guest movie, but it's hollowed out and.
The pigeons have been pecking at it. Yeah,
right. And you pick it up and you eat it anyway because you know it's a Tootsie Roll.
You dust a couple ants off.
Right, but it's not like that analogy where it's like, well, is there such thing as bad pizza? It's like, and I don't mean to compare, Christopher Guest to a Tootsie Roll because a lot of people hate Tootsie Rolls. But
I'm one. I don't care for Tootsie Rolls.
Yeah, it just gives that illusion of like they all just feel the same. They all just look the same, and that's fine because the cast that he has brought and the stable of actors that he has built, and you don't care what the plot is. You're there to see the funny, and they always bring the funny.
It's all about the performance,
right? And thankfully, all of those staple characters, with the exception of Catherine O'Hara and Eugene Levy, pretty much all of those staple characters are in this movie. Mm-hmm. They're just there. They're not. They're background.
Yeah,
and they're not. It's almost like this is supposed to be a passing of the torch to this, to this new wave of improvisational acters.
But instead of passing the torch, you just accidentally lit yourself on fire.
Yeah, and then drop the torch.
Yeah.
Because, let's face it, we all get older, and Christopher Guest isn't getting any younger, unfortunately. And it doesn't matter how good of a cast you have. If you don't have another Christopher Guest to pass the torch to, it's just not going to work. Yeah. They're saying a lot of the same stuff about like Saturday Night Live. Like when Lorne is done, is the show over? Part of it or like The Office with Steve Carell. We'll keep it going because it's just one guy, but when he's the heart and soul of the show, you're just looking at you're looking at the individual pieces instead of the sum of the parts. But no, I mean we're just talking now. I mean, the plot is what it is. It's the characters aren't really overly memorable.
No, they're not. I had a hard time remembering the character names as I was watching.
I'm having a hard time right now.
Yeah, and part of it was because there's so many of them, which usually is a Christopher Guest thing anyways, but I never struggled to remember character names like this before in a Christopher Guest movie, and it was partially because there were so many of them, and it was partially because they just weren't memorable.
Right. They're just inconsequential. If you were to give me like a matching quiz and said which character name goes to which mascot, Cindy Babineau would be about the only one I can get.
Yeah.
And even then, she didn't even perform. That was almost like a true passing of the torch in that scene.
I guess a little more literal in that sense.
And so but yeah, it's half the movie, like a third to a half of the movie is the Mascots' performance at this show, and unlike Beston's show where they would walk the ring and show their dogs, then they would cut away to something we wanted to see.
Yeah.
In this case, it was just a mess. I mean, and we talked about it briefly pre-show, but this just feels like Netflix wanted Christopher Guest to pay tribute to Christopher Guest.
But you usually don't hire the person that you're paying tribute to do the tributing.
Right. Willie Nelson's here to sing his hits.
It's
a Willie Nelson concert then. Right. It's just a concert now. But it's like you watch this and you're like, all right, we've got Best in Show. We've got with the whole Mascot performance. We've got and when you think of, is it the Millers, Zach Woods and Sarah Baker's character? They're kind of our Cookie and Jerry Fleck.
Yeah.
A married couple that are not necessarily seeing, or they're not. Let's even go further. They're Parker Posey and the other guy in Best in Show. Just we're in a relationship, but we kind of hate each other.
Yeah, and we hate ourselves because of that.
Yeah,
because we're codependent.
When the British guy is when he got stopped by the police officer and wasn't back, we get a little bit of Spinal Tap as his dad and his wife are walking all around the arena looking for him. Of course, the very obvious, we've got Waiting for Guffman because
way too on the nose.
Yeah, when you bring Corky back.
Yeah. Arguably
for no reason at all.
Arguably of the Christopher Guest directed movies, the most memorable character.
Oh yeah. And so we got to bring him back.
Yeah.
I will admit though, I haven't seen Waiting for Guffman near as much as I've seen Best in Show or even Spinal Tap or whatever. I've seen it enough that I knew where it was from. But I went to IMDb because I couldn't remember what Parker Posey's character name was in Waiting for Guffman. And so I went to check to make sure that Parker Posey wasn't also
the same
maintaining
character.
that. To which that would have made sense if she has experience with Corky, because otherwise there was no reason for him to be there.
Yeah. For our listeners who are not familiar with this, so again, Parker Posey's character was Cindy Babineau.
Yes, Cindy Babineau
plays Alvin the Armadillo, and she brings in almost like a mentor. I wouldn't say a coach, like a mentor, and it's Corky St. Clair, the lead character from Waiting for Guffman, in this very small role, and it's almost kind of a different version of the character in some ways. But it would have made sense if that was the evolution of Parker Posey's character, because her character in Guffman was supposed to be kind of the new kid on the block in that acting troupe.
Yeah, and that's why I looked her up to see was this the same character? Is this why Corky's back? It's not the same character. Corky's just shoehorned into this movie. You've got Jane Lynch and Ed Begley Jr. that are just muted versions. I would say Ed Begley Jr. pretty much plays his role this is his role in every Christopher Guest movie.
Yeah.
But still, it was muted. You've got Jane Lynch that was extremely muted. She's such a boisterous personality and so funny, and she looked like a librarian in this movie. She was given nothing to work with. And there were highlights.
There were some.
Don't
moments.
get me wrong. Fred Willard's back, just basically playing the commentator from Best in Show.
Basically, just ignorant aging guy.
Yeah, I'm gonna say a bunch of completely politically incorrect stuff to a little person and laugh at basically laugh at myself. And I don't know. I'm sorry. Do
we even want to go into the plot, or I don't know,
they're, like I said, you meet them all. You see, again, I don't have the character list in front of me, so you got the married couple.
There's Mike and Mindy, the married couple. There's Owen Jolly, the British guy.
Right.
There's Zook, Chris O'Dowd played him.
Yeah.
There's
I don't know why he was there either.
Yeah, the Babineau sisters.
There is a little bit of animosity because at a previous Mascot award, where they're fighting for the gold fluffy, Mike and Cindy had gotten together, which is funny because, no offense to Zach Woods, if you're listening, I think you're absolutely hysterical. But he doesn't actually he doesn't exude female attractiveness. He's not the kind of person that women are like, wow.
Well, he's also very good at playing just like a big tall goof.
Oh yeah, for sure. For those that aren't sure who Zach Woods is, but if you're an Office fan, he played Gabe in The Office, and this is pretty much that same character, only married.
Mm-hmm. So I would say he's not quite the drip that the Gabe character was.
No, not quite.
But he's not that far off either.
Right. He's. It's almost like if an alternate universe where Gabe and Aaron got actually married and now he's actually happy. He's fulfilled a bit. So yeah, there's a little bit of stuff there. They're competing. They're the mascots for like this like independent league or extremely minor league baseball team, just so we can shoehorn in another couple more. I just feel like, why did just get rid of the new guys and just make a Christopher Guest movie?
Yeah,
like you've got everybody there anyway. I mean, yeah, you're short Michael McKean and Catherine O'Hara and Eugene Levy, but it's like there's enough. His stable is large enough.
Yeah, you got Don Lake's there, Bob Balaban is there, Jennifer Coolidge is there. They don't do anything, by the way. They're just there.
No, they're just there. The audience. It's almost like I don't know. I keep referring to, it's just this bizarro of like Christopher Guest calling his buddies and are like, Netflix wants me to make a Christopher Guest movie, but they want me to make it with a new crop of people. But listen, I just need you guys there on set to watch, and we'll cut to you every once in a while with the camera. But other than that, just show up and watch.
Oh, and the exec is a big Waiting for Guffman fan, so we got to shoehorn Corky in.
Yeah, we got to make sure we get that. I don't know, it's just plot-wise, like I said, you meet all these people. You've got probably one of the better mascots. You've got the plumber. I thought.
I forgot about that guy.
Yeah, I didn't mind him. Like, his plumber character was fun. Like, that was a fun little thing they did. But really, like, him, like his out of the mascot person was just not. I mean, they gave him nothing to do. Yeah. At one point, he pulls up on the track during football practice and, tries to pep up the players. They have no idea who he is. Yeah. And then he's excited to go to, what was the name of this competition even? I don't... The Fluffies?
The award was called the Fluffies.
Right, I know that.
The contest itself... Oh, man. I don't...
It's Chicago's Midwest Fur Fest.
Exactly.
So he shows up at, mascot competition. Well, he's excited to go because I think is it in Florida?
I think California. It's in Anaheim. Anaheim.
That's right. So he heads out to California. He's excited because, like, his big crush from high school lives out there. Yeah. And he's kind of been stalking her on Facebook, and they've I won't say rekindled, but they've connected. Yeah. And he's excited to go out there because he's going to basically sweep her off her feet, and she's going to be the new Mrs. Plummer. And then that little scene just fell apart. Like,
that scene did nothing.
No,
he's nothing. Just this desperate guy whose entire life revolves around being a mascot. Yeah, like more than any of the others. Like, that's his identity. And like, okay,
you've got Zook, played by Chris O'Dowd, that basically lives the fist, like not as the mascot, but just
he is.
He is. I drink and I womanize, and if it weren't for my like bar bouncer friend that kind of keeps the glue together, I wouldn't even make it to this competition. Yeah, you got the Babineau girls, which were like Parker Posey. She's so like when she was just doing that like performance dancing on the lawn of the college that she's the mascot. and I've talked about it before. I love it because it's like the scene should end, but they leave the camera on her for just enough time that it's uncomfortable. I love it when directors do that, when it's like, your internal clock says and cut, but they're like, not yet. And she just keeps on dancing. She's got that real bad dye job where her roots have come out. Yeah. It's like halfway back on her head. And her sister's like way put together. And so she gets there and how'd she get injured?
Well, she ate some bad sushi.
That's what it was. They went out for sushi and she ate. I watched this movie yesterday morning. Like, this is how memorable it is. I've seen this movie before, and I watched it again yesterday morning, and I'm still like, I don't remember why she didn't perform. Yeah, she ate bad sushi.
So the sister had to perform in her place,
Right, which she was like a star high school cheerleader, and then like blew out her knee or something. So she's always wanted to perform, and this was her chance. You've got the British guy who he deserved the win. That little performance at the end, that was legit. That was pretty good. But it's like, he's got the storyline of, I'm a third generation
Yeah.
Bucky, or, I'm the third generation mascot for this soccer club. My granddad did it, and my dad did it, and now it's my turn. And dad is, you just stay with the way, and he wants to expand on it, and his wife's a believer, and, and they go to America and buy a ladder.
That's quite literally what happens.
Right. You've got you've got like the rabbi and the worm that just like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And, like I said, the squirrel beaver guy wins, and it changed his life, and his dad's now even more proud of him and realized that, you are better. The Millers, they give up mascotting and saves their marriage. And, hire a like 19-year-old nanny, which is really kind of gross.
Well, you mentioned before that in this competition a couple years back, Mike and Cindy hooked up, and at this competition, Mike and Lacey, the sister, hook up.
She, and good for Zach Woods, because
she's in Parks and Rec. She had a recurring role in Parks and Rec.
And I knew she did, but I was like, she's an attractive woman. Like, good for you, Zach Woods. She's kind of chewing her gum, like, stick a gum, Victor. Like, exactly.
You gotta stick a gum. Stick a gum,
Victor. She already had the gum, but they just get on the elevator, and that was the end of that one. But it just, it wrapped up like every Christopher Guest movie. And
they had the little epilogue sequence, I think it was a year later in this circumstance.
Right.
Shows where the characters are and how the competition impacted them.
Yeah. Next year it might be televised.
Yeah. Okay. that subplot went nowhere, by the way. The gluten-free channel sponsors.
Well, it was a reason to get who's that? What's that?
John Michael Higgins.
Thank you. I knew Higgins was in there, and but it was a reason to get John Michael Higgins in the movie. Yeah, and he nailed it. Like,
it was a good performance, but
it was pointless.
But there was
just. This just stinks of somebody making Christopher Guest make a movie.
Yeah. Do you want to just cut to the rating?
Yeah.
Let's cut that and that's Mascots, folks. And now
I told you I read the whole plot in a sentence. So
that's 2016's Mascots. On to the ratings, where Oz and I each give our own unique rating to the film we've been yapping about. In this case, the whatever that was Mascots.
Mascots.
Oz, how would you rate this flick?
Well, if they're giving out gold, silver, and bronze fluffies, this one doesn't even get a fluffy. This gets the honorable mention, which is it's kind of like first place, but in a weird kind of way. Yeah. As Parker Posey's talking about, she got honorable mention at the last fluffies, and it's like first place, but
it's the Little League trophy that every kid gets.
Exactly. This is your participation medal.
Yes.
So there is another Christopher Guest movie out there. For that, you could feel good about, but not my favorite Christopher Guest movie.
Yeah.
How about you?
I will make a reference to the movie. Towards the end, the Chris O'Dowd character had become a monk a year later. Oh, yeah. And he was talking about the fact that I guess he had syphilis or something, and that all the young ladies between 48 to 68 in Manitoba should probably get checked. So that's my rating, is all the young ladies between 48 and 68 in Manitoba.
That actually makes up the core of our listeners, too. So.
And I'm going to pat myself on the back. I think that line works better for me here than it did for Chris O'Dowd
it does.
in the movie.
It definitely works better for you. Oh, boy.
On to Outside Insights, where Oz and I each find an unprofessional review somewhere on the interwebs, and we bring it to you, the listener, and have some laughs at the expense of the writers. Oz, let's hear your outside insight for Mascots.
I wonder if you did what I did. Did you go find a good review for this movie?
No.
I did.
No.
Because normally if we like the movie, we go look for a sour review.
Yeah.
I actually went out and I'm like, I want to find the best rating I have. So this is a 5-star on Letterboxd by Kennedy Hopkins, full name here, on December 3rd of 2020. I know that the critics didn't like this one, but all caps, GD, do I love this movie? Not the GD is actually spelled out, but gosh darn, do I love this movie with my entire being.
Wow,
Mascots,
that's a lot.
Well, I don't know how big Kennedy is, but Mascots is heartwarming and sincere while still being so very hilarious. The cast is brilliant. Guest brought back a lot of his usual actors, but there were a lot of newbies, and they all fit in extremely well. Zach Woods was a perfect pick for this movie because he's probably one of the strongest improvisers I've seen to date. I'd also like to say that I think this was one of Parker Posey's strongest performances yet. I love how Posey really makes you care so much about her character that, spoilers, when she didn't win, it's sad. I remember crying at the end of this movie because I was so attached. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I remember crying at the end of this movie because I was so attached to these characters. That is why I love Guests movies. Anyways, I'm totally rambling. TLDR, Mascots is hilarious, yet sincere with a strong cast and lovable characters. It's one of my favorite movies.
Wow, okay, well, good for you, I guess. I'm glad that
Kennedy Hopkins eats peanut butter sandwiches and butter noodles for dinner as often as possible. Mm-hmm. Like I doubt Kennedy Hopkins seasons their chicken before they prepare it. You know,
I have one flavor, bland.
My favorite drink is water.
If I want to spice it up, I'll put an ice cube in there.
Right. One time I left it out on the counter overnight.
Woo! I had to go to immediate care.
It tasted funny. How about you? What's your outside insight?
My outside insight comes from Punishment Park 19.
Punishment Park.
Punishment Park 19. and I'm cherry picking some things here, so we're going to lose a little context, but whatever.
That's fine.
I wasn't able to watch this under the right circumstances. I didn't have a comfortable sofa or such, and that never helps.
Oh man, keep going.
Maybe if this ever will come out on DVD or Blu-ray, I'll be able to watch it over and over and get more into it.
Because Netflix doesn't let you watch it multiple times.
Exactly.
Unlike that pay-per-view Netflix.
No. You're only allowed to watch things one time on Netflix.
Oh,
no pause button, no rewind. You're watching that straight through and getting the most of it.
Yeah, Payne Park's gonna have his life just changed.
What? I can watch it again.
Oh, I'm gonna have to go buy a comfortable couch. Oh my.
Yeah, I couldn't pass that one up. All right, folks, it's time for our signature segment, the moment you've all been waiting for, the 3, 2, 1, in which Oz and I each share 3 goods, 2 bads, and 1 about the movie we've been talking about. In this case, the Netflix-produced movie Mascots. What are your 3 goods, Oz?
My first one was, while the mascot performances at the end weren't necessarily funny, they were well done. So kudos to the stunt people and performers that were performing this, because they, the ones that were given the time were well done. Like it was impressive. It was, so good for you. So that's my first one. My second is, I really did like the chemistry between Zach Woods and Sarah Baker.
Yes, I would agree.
I thought they both played really well off each other. Just little things like she'll go to touch his face, and he please don't do that. Like,
just jerks away, yeah.
Right. And they're married, so you just think oh, these poor people, that was the wedding day was probably the happiest day of their life, and then they went right back to miserable town right after that.
That runs. I gotta cut it for a second. During their epilogue sequence at the end there, the 1 year later, they're not mascots anymore, but they're still together.
Right. That's what saved their marriage.
Yes, exactly. And they're kind of bickering back and forth, and he believes that she's treating him like a baby, and he says, "I'm a little baby with an abusive mommy." Then he looks directly at the camera. She has Munchausen syndrome. Help!
Yeah, I laughed pretty hard at that too. Like, it's, and he's checking out the nanny, and she smacks him in the face, and does the whole, you had a bug, like, and but he did. I'm a little baby. So Zach Woods and Sarah Baker is my second good. Yeah. And I did get a kick out of John Michael Higgins talking that little scene where he's talking about all the TV stations he's worked at before. Yeah, because he's and it was really early on, but he's there for the gluten-free network. They may be the ones that are going to put this Mascots show, but other networks he's worked for is Sailing 1 and Sailing 2 networks. The Santa's Rockin' Boat Regatta that overturned and Santa drowned.
Yeah, Santa drowned on camera.
So they cancel the Sailing Network and then start one called the Sailing 2 Network.
I remember that first one.
Yeah, I also used to work for the F&R channel, the Fence and Railing channel. Also used to be a producer for the Varicose Vein channel, and their hit show, "Do the Back of My Legs Look Like Waffles?" And then cuts to his junior associate, and she's got experience from the Elevator Network, and their hit show, "Does This Smell Normal?" They're just talking about, they're just killing it in the ratings. And it's I don't know, I just thought those were kind of funny, just watching them go back and forth, because I would like to believe that there was a lot of improv in this movie too. And so just watching these guys riff off each other, I enjoy watching that kind of humor. So those are my three goods. How about you?
My three goods, Cindy and Lacey's relationship. Your outside insight kind of, I think, leaned a little bit too far into it. However, I did like the genuine, loving relationship between the two sisters. I thought I don't know if I'd say it was moving, but they had a genuine bond. They were there for each other. Yeah.
You didn't cry at the end when
I did. I did not cry at the end. No, I did not cry. No weeping for Mascots. But they had a genuine bond. They cared about each other as sisters. They supported each other. And they related to each other very well. I thought Parker Posey and I forget the other actress's name. I thought they played Susan Yeagley. I thought they played off each other very well. So yeah, I like that relationship. Number two, the AJ and Gabby characters, Ed Begley Jr. and Jane Lynch, again, were underutilized in this. However, they did have a couple fun moments.
They did.
It's basically, they're both Mascot judges, but she's much more popular than he is. There's a sequence where they're signing autographs, and she has a line out the door and he has no one.
Right.
And she holds this over his head too, which is also funny.
just real, just real, not even subtle.
She wrote a book called "A Moose in Grace: A Mascot's Journey to God and Success in Real Estate," and so that's her claim to fame. He doesn't have a book,
right?
He was
during that autograph scene, he was just the bus was late. All his fans were on the way, but they just they'll be here. Don't worry.
And his claim to fame when he was a mascot back in the day is that his mascot costume was the first that was anatomically correct.
That's right. It's anatomically correct donkey.
Yeah. So I thought that, even though, again, underutilized, not enough screen time, I thought that their characters and performances were fun.
Did you ever watch The State?
I have not. I have not had a chance to dig into The State. I know you've talked about it before.
It's hard to find, but there was I won't call it a recurring bit, but there was a couple of sketches where there was I think it was Michael Ian Black. I'm probably wrong. It doesn't matter. But we'll just attribute it to Michael Ian Black.
Sure.
He played a character. I think his name was Donnie, but he was like a mentally handicapped person, but was extremely well endowed. And so they're showing him doing things, but they've pixelated that part as it's, but it's like calf length,
Yeah.
So it's, he's jumping up and down waving at cars and it's just swinging around all pixelated. I think at one point he gets it caught in like the spokes of his bike. It made me think of that when Ed Begley Jr.'s anatomically correct donkey, and when they flash to it and it's all pixelated out. It just made me think of that clip from The State. Oh, that show is so great.
I'm going to match your obscure 90s comedy reference with another obscure 90s comedy reference. That reminds me of a bit from an old Conan episode. They had a recurring bit. I forget what it was called, but it was basically like they would flash back to some like traumatic moment from their past that kind of shaped who they are. And, and Andy flashed back, and Andy's were always the best. He would flash back, or his flashback was he was in the locker room in high school PE, and he was taking a shower. And there's a couple other guys there. They're giving him a hard time. Like the jocks are there, and they're like, "Hey, Richter, how come you always have your towel on? What do you got? What are you hiding there, Richter?" And he's like, "No, please, just leave me alone." They're like, "Oh yeah," and so they pull the towel off, and then it's you see everyone from the waist up, but they pull the towel off, and you just hear a thud.
I was expecting this to go that way.
You hear a thud, and the two jocks are just like, "Oh my god!" And then Andy just starts crying. "I told you, I'm a freak."
I'm going to jump in and correct myself because I was completely wrong. It was Upright Citizen. It was Upright Citizens Brigade.
Okay.
It was UCB. It wasn't the State. Not that the State wouldn't have done something like that first, because David Wayne and crew were equally as hilarious. But it was UCB and it was the Little Donnie Foundation.
Okay.
And the clips are on YouTube. So
okay.
But they're just hilarious. It's it's those guys. It's the UCB guys, and they're just having fun with it. But it's easy to get that mixed up between Kids in the Hall and the State and UCB, and they're all getting screen time.
Yeah.
Like those for lack of it, those like back alley comedy.
Yeah.
Circuits. It's tough to keep straight whose joke was whose. So I apologize, David Wayne, for giving you credit that it wasn't yours, and for those Amy Poehler and crew for UCB. There you go. I'd rather correct it verbally than have to get bombarded by all of our fans.
The hundreds of comments that'll be in the YouTube section here, in the comment section.
Yeah, everybody that remembers Upright Citizens Brigade in extreme description, as well as our fans. The Venn diagram is got a very heavy middle section.
Yeah,
so.
We just dodged a bullet there, Oz.
I would have spent seconds responding to those messages.
My last good, I don't know. I had Zach Woods and Sarah Baker.
Okay.
I don't know what. I don't know, Owen Jr. winning over his dad. I don't know. It was sweet for a second, and then it stopped, and that's
I love
fine.
how Owen Jr.'s dad was Owen Sr. and his grandpa was Owen Sr.
Owen Sr. Yep. Like, how do you know?
We're not using Roman numerals here. We're not going, Owen the third. I'm going to start with me and work up, not down.
So if there's another one, and this we could have turned this into a but assuming if Owen Jr. has a kid named Owen Jr., does he then become senior? Does his dad become senior, and does his granddad become senior?
I think Owen becomes junior, senior, and then he releases a fun little pop album.
There you go. So. Junior, senior's dynamite.
Right.
All right, Oz, what are your two bads?
Oh, again, I've talked about it a little bit. My first bad, Spinal Tap was great because you've got comedy geniuses Christopher Guest and Rob Reiner.
Yeah.
All of the other Christopher Guest movies are great because it's Christopher Guest. This one felt like Netflix just wouldn't get out of the way and let him make a movie. This feels like, the producers were stepping in and reminding him why they like him so much, and then wanting him to do that part.
Hey, do you remember that character you did?
Yeah, that's where I was going.
Corky. Next. Yeah. You should do that. Do that now.
It's like Chris Farley's like like interview segment when he was talking. Here, you remember? You were in the Beatles. You're in the Beatles. You remember that song?
That movie?
Awesome.
That movie, Die Hard.
That was awesome. That's what it felt like. It just felt like Christopher Guest. And good for him.
Yeah.
Took the paycheck. He took the paycheck. This was back in 2016.
Yeah. Got to keep Jamie Lee happy.
When Netflix was throwing cash at people for original content, and they threw cash at him, and he took it, and he made a Christopher Guest movie that he probably hadn't even thought of before they brought it. Mm-hmm. Hey, we need you to make a movie. I feel like the others were, I have an idea that I'm going to make it. And this was more like, we want you to make one. And he's like, well, I better come up with an idea. I know I'm going to take a little bit of this and a little bit of that and sprinkle it all in, and everyone will be happy, and I'll cash that check and move on. And that's how this felt. So that's my first bad. My second one, to piggyback, just not letting your guest regulars really showcase their talent. There were micro doses of things, but when his stable of improv actors is so robust that by bringing them in with the cast, but then also introducing another group, is just too many for anybody to shine. And so that's my second bad. Nobody got the spotlight. Everybody got a taste, and it just wasn't enough to satisfy.
Sure. I get that completely.
How about you?
My two bads. There's just too many characters. Mm-hmm. Too many characters, and I'm going to combine two possibilities I had here. Too many characters, and the characters didn't interact enough. They each were
hardly at all.
They each were in their own little corners of the world, and that's what made. I know we keep referencing Best in Show because this is basically Best in Show. Just with mascots instead of dogs.
Right.
And in Best in Show, they each had their corners, but then they would come together and interact at the competition or backstage or comment about each other. And in this, they're all isolated from each other. And it felt like this fractured, segmented pieces that just never really connected together. And that bothered me.
And I think they could have gotten the same thing across. Let's take, for instance, the Millers and Cindy Babineau. If you take the piece, the segment where the Millers are discussing how at a previous convention, he had cheated on her with Cindy Babineau. You take it, cut it from where it was, and move it to right after the Millers and Cindy Babineau cross paths at the competition. Let those three come across each other. Let it be a little icy. Mm-hmm. Then cut to why it's icy. And I feel it flows a little better because we see the tension, but we don't know why. Is it because they're competitors? But then we go into, last one of these things, Mike and Cindy, that to me, but it's like they had already spoiled that earlier.
Yeah.
And then they bring it around, and it's like, well, now I know why it's icy, and it's not funny anymore because you already told me what happened. But I'm with you. Like, it's just too many people and not enough interaction. I agree 100%.
My other bad is that the Greg character, which was Fred Willard, just didn't work here. Like, Fred Willard is a great improviser, and some of his past roles would kind of start, would toe some appropriate lines, appropriate lines, and here his character simply existed basically for that one scene with the little person character. Ron was that character's name, and it did nothing. First of all, it did nothing to the plot. It didn't. The character itself was unnecessary, and it sounded like this, like somebody thought this gag up in their head and they thought it'd be gangbusters, and it didn't work, and the appropriateness of it was it didn't feel right. It didn't work. It was unnecessary and bad at the same time.
It almost makes it worse because it's almost like they put the Ron character in the movie simply for Fred Willard's character.
Yeah, like to be the butt of a joke.
Right, like that's the only, because he's not one of our like featured people. They show him at one point, he's like inchworming his way down a hallway, whatever, and then they cut to him being made fun of to his face, And then they cut to his performance, with like the rabbi, with the rabbi and the worm, and then he's gone. That's it. Like he's in a mascot costume 2 of the 3 times we see him, and the only time he's not in costume is so we can have Fred Willard make fun of him.
Yeah.
So I mean, he's completely useless too. It's one thing for Fred Willard to really not need a role, but then like he can't have his role without this role. So let's bring in a little person actor to get made fun of by Fred Willard.
Yeah,
it's just not.
It was icky.
No.
It was icky. Yeah. Oz, what's your
Why did they waste Chris O'Dowd?
Yeah, his character
completely. And I like him as an actor. I think he's funny. I really liked him in Bridesmaids. I've seen him on a couple other things. He's charming. He's fun. He's solid. I mean, he's a good actor, and they just wasted him. Completely wasted him. So that's my It's like, why'd you waste him? Like, you're riding high off Bridesmaids at this point. Like, people know who he is to a degree, and you just. Yeah, I don't know. It's like the character he played in this was Harlan Williams' character in Superstar. Like the cool guy in The Fringe that really doesn't have a purpose other than to be the cool guy.
Yeah.
And then only Harlan Williams' character actually gets some like screen time, and you realize he's got a stutter and that he's trying to play off of it. Chris O'Dowd is he's nothing. He's the fist.
He's the bad boy mascot.
Yeah. And he's whatever.
Yeah.
That's an oxymoron. He's the bad boy mascot. Like, that's your career choice. You're a mascot.
Yep, you're choosing to do that.
So, what's your
we kind of talked about this before, but I think it's worth mentioning again. Just why Corky St. Clair?
Yeah.
Again, no purpose. It did not move the plot along. It didn't even move Cindy's character along.
No.
Like, it really didn't do much for her either. It's just there to check the Christopher Guest box. Again, I have a strong feeling there was some exec at Netflix who was like, you're putting Corky in this movie. Right. Or it doesn't get made.
Yeah, because we're paying you. And again, Christopher Guest is probably like, fine. Like, lay your stink on it. That's, I'll cash that check. And I don't blame him. They're human. They got to work.
Yeah.
So, good for him.
Yeah. Well, that, folks, was 2016's Mascots. And it also concludes this month, Oz.
I know. I really like the pacing of these. Like, by the time we get to the end of the month, I really am ready to transition into something else.
Yeah. And this was a 5-weeker also.
Yeah, this is a 5-week month. So what do we have next month?
Next month, we have Batmen.
It's Batmen month.
It's Batmen month, where we will go week by week to, discussing a different Batman movie featuring a different Batman actor.
Right.
And next week, we're going to be doing the 1966 feature-length Batman featuring Adam West.
Yes, they'll be our first. He's the first Batman. Hence our first Batman.
Yes, the first Batman of our Batmen.
And just full disclaimer before we get into the month, we discussed beforehand, we're sticking with like standalone franchisey Batman.
Yes.
There are a lot more Batmen than there are weeks.
Yes.
And so we're not doubling up. We're sticking with, we rebooted the franchise with this guy. That's what we're sticking with. We got 4 weeks. We're going to hit up the 4 franchise starters. We're not going to jump ship into somebody that's been part of an ensemble cast or somebody that took over the cowl for another actor. We're just sticking with our franchise starters.
Spoiler, no Batfleck.
No Batfleck. No, unfortunately no. And no Will Arnett either.
Yeah,
like
correct.
Will Arnett. We're sticking with live action Batman. So... All right, well, that's what we got for next month, everybody. You know where to find us on social media. I'm excited for next month. And, hit us up if you got any concerns or if you got any comments or you'd like to make any recommendations. We would love to hear them. We can hit us anywhere you download or listen to your podcast. You can get us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, everywhere that you consume your media except the cool news spots. We're not on Snapchat or TikTok, but that's okay. So, but that's what we got for this week and for this month. So for Let's Talk About Flicks, I'm Oz.
I'm Curtis.
and we will see you in Batman month.